The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome to today's coaching session with your host, Rick Brash.
Well, thanks, Andrea. Welcome, everybody. Great to spend the next little bit of time with you working on the Quantum Leap system. One of my joys in life is helping you implement a better way to work and a better way to make money as a professional residential real estate agent. You know, I'm absolutely thrilled with how the system served me and my family. And so it's a great joy that I get to help you with your implementation of the program as well. And I'm eternally grateful to Craig and the coaching staff who have been a big part of my success. And that being said, I think lurking in the background, we actually have Craig with us today. Hi, Craig. How are you?
Hey, Rick. Yes, I am lurking here in the background. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you for inviting me on today's call.
Well, hey, thank you for doing this. Today we're going to be talking about how to generate leads using Facebook marketing. That's what we're going to start with, and we've got some other things we're going to talk about if we have time to do that. So I want to thank you in advance for creating this presentation. You've been doing a really good job generating leads with Facebook. Why don't we start by talking about how that's been working for you?
Well, it's working really well. I mean, everybody should get their head around this. Facebook is just another medium. You know, when we talk about generating leads, Craig, one of the key fundamentals you really drilled into my brain was that 3M formula. You know, one of the key things in the 3M formula is the medium that we choose to run our ad on. So for today's discussion, we can all agree that Facebook is simply a medium. And the people using that medium represent qualified buyers and sellers who I'd like to talk with, you know, in the next 48 hours. So the medium choice is very, very important. And I think Facebook's an interesting medium, Craig, when we think about how many people, you know, use social media to communicate either, you know, what they're doing or with friends or whatever. It's also an advertising medium that's used by other industries. But for real estate agents, here's a couple of interesting things we want to remember. Your prospects, the buyers you'd like to help buy with next week, and the sellers whose homes you'd like to list next week probably have access to Facebook. So, you know, Craig, where there's people who need to buy or sell, it certainly makes sense that they bump in to our advertising, another key fundamental that you taught me years ago. So you know, a few years ago when Facebook opened up their ad manager and started to experiment with advertising in the same vein as Google does, Google is best known for its AdWord program. AdWord is a fancy term for pay-per-click. Every time somebody clicks on your little display ad in Google, you're willing to pay Google X amount of cents for that click. And that click drives the traffic somewhere to a landing page, somewhere on the internet that you've pre-chosen for them to go. Well, Facebook, in essence, works the same. You create your ad in Facebook, you have a compelling headline, you have an attractive picture, and a very well-worded 90-character caption that's interesting to a prospect, interesting enough that they'll click on it and be taken somewhere. So I started to experiment with this about 3 years ago when it was turned on at Facebook, and initially I struggled because I didn't quite get the whole grok on how it works. But as time went on, I got better and better and better at it to the point where everybody started to take notice of what we were sharing with our Quantum Leap members because it worked so well. So it's kind of cool, Craig, that you've asked me to come on today's call and just share some of those things with our coaching members so they too can utilize this medium in their lead gen strategy. So it's my pleasure to do that.
All right, well, let's get started. Let's talk about how to do this. I mean, like anything else, there are correct ways to do this and incorrect ways, and some of our members are better than others, I would say, at this. And some of you may think, well, this is probably complicated, but it really is quite simple, which Rick will show you.
Yeah, I agree. There's a couple of methods that we've had really great success with in terms of direct response lead generation. And again, first and foremost, let's make sure that we're clear that that's what this is, okay? It's not image advertising. It's not, you know, highlighting our listings, although you can do that. It is a direct response lead generation method that all of us are using to generate leads. So there's a couple of methods on Facebook that I think it would do good for us to review, Craig. Let's start by looking at the basic, simple, one-step method that all of us have started with on Facebook. And the purpose of this method, the purpose of the ad that we're going to create, is to take the traffic that's intrigued by our ad and send them to our less branded landing page using whichever campaign page we've decided. Okay, so that's the purpose of the ad, to drive the traffic away from Facebook into our less branded landing page, which when the prospect gets there, the landing page does its job. It creates the lead for us with that person who is qualified. So here's where it starts. So if you have a page, a personal page on Facebook, you should be able to begin here under this tab or under this link called Ad Manager. Now, if you haven't done this yet, before you can do this and have access to this link, you just have to go in through your profile and open your advertising account at Facebook. You'll go in there, you'll register, you'll add a little bit more information that Facebook needs, and unfortunately, Craig, we have to add our credit card. This is a pay-per-click service. It's not free. And I have to say that sternly because a lot of you think that we can generate oodles and oodles of leads for free. You can't. We can generate some using Craigslist and Backpage and Kijiji, but at the end of the day, some of our marketing is going to require us to pay. Now, Facebook is an example. Now, as a side note, in terms of pay-per-click, you can pay a lot of money for one click. And I often think, Craig, of some of the bigger metropolitan centers where we have members. You know, I was working with a member the other day who lives in downtown Manhattan, downtown New York. And he advertises himself and his listings in 3 buildings downtown Manhattan. His entire career is 3 buildings. And when he runs a specific ad for those buildings in Google, he's paying upwards of $8 per click. That's a lot of money for one click. Facebook is nowhere near that expensive. But every time somebody clicks on your ad, you have to be willing to pay those few cents that you've chosen in the beginning. So that's why, to get started, to get this link on your page, you need to go in and set up your credit card. Now, once you click on that link, it takes you to a page that actually enables you to start building an ad. Now, for this particular ad format, we're going to use this one, the clicks to website. And this is what we talked about earlier. We want to take the traffic who's interested in taking advantage of the offer we make through our marketing. And remember, direct response is offer-based marketing, and take them to our landing page where they can take advantage of the offer. So start by taking and clicking on that button right there. And you'll notice there's a few here. There's a few choices. That's the one we're going to start with. Now, after clicking that, Facebook wants to know what landing page are we driving the traffic to. So this is where you would insert that unique and distinctive website domain name for your ad. Now, in this case, the case I'm going to use today, this is for a distressed sale campaign. And the URL I'm going to use is called www.troubledhousedeals.com. Now, you're probably wondering, why don't I have my market in there? Why don't I have Newmarket Troubled House Deals or Calgary Troubled House Deals or Cedar Rapids Troubled House Deals in that line? Well, you're going to see in a minute why it's not necessary, because you're going to actually choose where your ad is shown. And one of your choices is actually the city. But you'll see in a minute how this works. But anyways, insert the domain name in the box and click Continue. Now, what happens at this point is there's a pause. And I'm showing a specific landing page that I'm using. And what happens here is Facebook now goes with its software onto your landing page and makes sure that you have an appropriate privacy policy attached to your page. So I know after some of our members do this, Craig, I'm going to get a bunch of emails stating that they couldn't get past the page where they put in their URL. Well, this is the biggest reason why. So it all depends on where you're sending the traffic. If there isn't an appropriate privacy policy with the language in it that Facebook likes, they won't let you go any further. And if you're sending your traffic to a Success less branded page and you have some troubles, give Success a call and ask them if they have changed the verbiage in their privacy policy. Because Facebook is really fussy about this whole issue of privacy. Now, moving forward, after it's allowed that, after it's said, okay, the page is good, you're then asked to upload some pictures that will work in conjunction with your ad, and here they are. So on this next screen, I'm actually given the opportunity to upload 6 images. And I like to upload properties that really just work in conjunction with the ad. So in this case, I'm running an ad for a list of distressed properties. So I think I would show, in this case, a list of properties that might be a little bit lower priced, that might need work, that might represent maybe a dated property, something like that. Because in my market here in Calgary, where I use this campaign, that seems to get me a really good flood of leads every time I run this campaign. So in this case, for this example, I've inserted 2 pictures, and for those of you who are wondering where I get the pictures, and I get a lot of emails from our members who want to know where should I get pictures. I just reuse my listing pictures that I've had over the years. I have quite an inventory of sold properties, and I've kept all the properties over the years. So that's where I get my pictures. Sometimes if I need something specific, I'll just go online, snap the picture, and use that in my ad. Now, if the picture is copyrighted, I don't use that one. Or if the picture is protected somehow, I don't use that one. But I'm not advertising the property of the house that I grabbed off the internet. So I don't think I'm breaking the law. But anyway, once the pictures are uploaded, I go to the next screen, and this is where we have to get creative with our message. Now, the first thing the Facebook ad creator wants you to do here is come up with a headline. Now, I don't want anybody to rush through this whole idea of creating a headline. I don't want you to do that. I want you to take some time and really think out what you use for a headline. Because the headline's job is to sell the rest of the ad. Okay? Think of a classified ad. Think of how you thumb through the newspaper in the morning. The headline is what grabs your attention and compels you into the ad or into that article that it fits on top of. So your headline is really important. For those of you that have been struggling a little bit to get your ads clicked on with the online classifieds, one of the encouragements I always give you is let's change your headline. Let's make your headline as compelling as possible about the subject at hand. Well, same thing here. I try and create a headline that really grabs the attention of my prospective client. In this case, my headline is Hot Deals - Troubled Homes. Okay, so that's going to be the headline for the ad. And then below that, in the text box, I have 90 characters to build the caption to my ad. So you can see what I inserted in there, and you can see on the right-hand side there that the 2 ads have now been created using all 3 of those elements: the picture, the headline, the caption, and of course there's the URL where that ad is going to be shot to when somebody clicks on it. So that's how you build the basic pay-per-click ad. And at any point in time after your ad is created and it's running, you can come back into Facebook and you can edit your copy a little bit. Maybe you run your ad tomorrow and you discover there's a typo in the ad or something like that. Well, you can come in and you can adjust it. Or maybe when you see your ad running on Facebook tomorrow, you realize that you didn't do a really great job with your headline. Well, you can come back into the matrix where all your ads are sitting, and you can adjust that later on moving forward. So anyway, there's all the elements have come together. Now, I get a lot of questions on where should my ad run. Well, there's two places on Facebook where an ad can run. It can run down the right-hand column, and for people at work on their computers, on their full-sized desktop PCs, they will see your ad. But for people who surf the internet or do Facebook with, say, their iPhone, their smartphone, their tablet, the apps that go on those mobile devices, most of them don't show the right-hand column. All they show is what's called the news feed. So that's the main scrolling page in your Facebook page. You want your ad to be there as well. And moving forward, we're seeing now more ads in the news feed, Craig, than we are in the right-hand column. So this is one of those things that you want to track. In fact, you might even run two ads, very similar in nature, one in the news feed, one in the right-hand column, and just test and see how well those ads have performed, and stick with the one that generates the most traffic to your landing page. But anyway, that's how you create the look of the ad. And right there is how it's going to look on the page. Now, here's an example, sorry. So here's a right column ad. So I popped this off of my screen earlier today. Here's what a right column ad looks like, and here's what a newsfeed ad looks like. Okay? So they are inherently different, even though they're driving traffic to the same place, the same page in your less branded site. But what you've done now is you've created a message, you've got a medium, you've identified who the market is. Now let's balance those three things together, and let's see if we can create some traffic. Now, with respect to the market, this is where we get to be as creative as we think we need to be. So you'll notice now I live, for those of you who don't know where I am, I live in a place called Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Now, I live in a city of about 1.2 million, and the Facebook population the other day when I looked at it was about 920,000 people. So in the trading area where my real estate board is, just over 900,000 Facebook accounts. So here's the ad. There, I showed you the ad. Now here's where you decide who gets to see your ad, right? You now choose your audience or your demographic of who your ad will be flashed in front of. And in case you're wondering how that works, only the people that you choose will have the ad show up on their page, okay? So in this instance, I've chosen a minimum age of 24, as you can see there. I didn't specify men or women. I chose all. And below that, under interests, I can go all the way through there and choose and choose and choose and choose. And as I choose, the potential reach in the box on the right diminishes and diminishes and diminishes. So that's one of those things you get to play around with and see if you can become real scientific at generating leads. But for our discussion today, this ad is going to be flashed to people who are 24 years of age and older, and in this instance, our potential reach is 660,000 people. Now I'm going to say at the outset, that's a really big audience. If you can get a smaller audience to work with, I think you'll find that your lead generation is probably a little bit more effective. And I work my way down the page until I get to a point where they've asked me to tell them, Facebook, how much I'm willing to pay to have my ad flashed in their pages. So this is where we tell Facebook how much we'll pay per click. Now, for today's webinar, I've got some real generic numbers in here, okay? I've chosen a daily budget of $5. You can see that there under budget. And I've said to run my campaign continuously until my $5 budget is used up. I'm bidding for clicks, which just like Google means the higher I'm willing to pay per click, the higher I am up on the priority list of Facebook running my ad. And you'll notice at the bottom under pricing, I've said I'm willing to pay 50 cents per click. So if you do the math, like we encourage you to do with any pay-per-click program, this ad will get 10 clicks in a day, spend $5, and then it'll turn itself off until tomorrow. Okay, now, some comments on that. I get a lot of questions from our members who say, well, Rick, what do you think about starting off with a $5 a day budget? And I'll be honest with you, I think that's way too conservative. I think any budget for any pay-per-click needs to be reasonable. All right? Now, if you think about this campaign, which is going to go out to well over 600,000 people, every 10 clicks, my ad shuts itself off for the day. So there's a couple of things I just want you to work through as a good marketer. Number one, trying to reduce your audience down to a more manageable number. And number two, work with a budget that makes sense. So if this was in real life, if I was really going to run this campaign, I'd probably work with a number closer to $50, maybe $35 or $50 in a day. And I'd probably be willing to pay a little bit more per click because that gets my click bid a little bit higher on the list. And my ad will get run sooner rather than later by the folks at Facebook. So once I've got all that figured out, and by the way, these are things that we test. All right, we're always testing. Craig's teaching us that, you know, good marketers are really good testers. And I want all of you to remember the value in not only creating an ad and running it, but by looking at the results it creates. Right? That's the testing portion. And as we've been telling you in our coaching calls, it's absolutely crucial that you test and look at the data that every single ad you're running gathers over the course of a day. And when you do your weekend or your month end, you want to look at all that data so you know how effective your marketing campaigns are. But anyway, when all that is said and done, at the bottom of the page, it says, review the order or place the order. I always review it, have a look at what it is I'm going to do, and then I hit place the order, and the ad is created. It goes off to Facebook through their software, and it's either approved or disapproved, and I get a note back through Facebook, usually about an hour later, telling me it's been approved, and my ad is live. So here's what some of the ads look like that I run, you know, all the time. I probably have, I don't know, maybe 170 ads in my account, all of which have worked at one time or another, all of which have really great relevancy for a specific corner of the market that I want to talk to, and they look just like this. They're interesting. For somebody who's thinking about moving, the top ad there, Calgary's Home Evaluators, interested to know your home's value, free online home evaluation by simply clicking here, and we drive the prospect to a landing page. Here's an ad below it that I've shared with our members before, Craig. This is for a little bedroom community south of Calgary called Okotoks, and this is for a home evaluation. Here's what I like about this ad. Notice on the right, it tells me my audience is only 11,400 people. So if I decide to run that ad with a $50 or a $70 a day budget from Thursday until Sunday over a weekend, I can probably generate myself a dozen or more seller leads from that little community of Okotoks just because those people use Facebook as well, and prospective sellers simply want to begin the project by finding out what their home is worth. So when your ad is relevant, when the marketing message makes sense, when the market you've chosen to talk to is really participating in real estate sales, and when the medium you've chosen to work with is really sensible for the audience, the byproduct of that, as we're all learning, is leads. Okay, that's the byproduct of doing this correctly. And you're going to make a few mistakes as you start to do this. But the biggest mistake you can make is not doing it. It's inexpensive, it's effective, it's great for targeting a specific audience, and you'll find it's really easy to manage as time goes on. And you should never delete an ad. Even if you've got an ad that didn't work, keep it in your ad, in your account, in your ad manager, and make notes somewhere of why this ad didn't work, and you can always refer to it as, you know, as a reminder as to why it didn't work. And the other thing too is when you're driving traffic to a specific page in your site, and you've heard Craig and James talk about this at length on the Friday Ad Clinic, make sure you personalize your landing page. Okay, so for that last ad that I shared with you, the home evaluation in Okotoks, Alberta, here's the page that I use to go along with that. Attention Okotoks homeowners. And there's the verbiage that I use in my less branded success website to generate a request for that online home evaluation. So I just think it's really important that we let what we're learning permeate our formula for generating leads on Facebook. And here's just a snapshot of some of the stuff that I've done. And as you can see, each line there represents an ad. When you click on the one specific ad, it takes you to a drop-down, and you can see all the data that you created when that ad was running. And as I mentioned earlier, here's just some examples of ads that I've used moving forward, and ads that you can copy, or maybe you can use something similar here. Now, the format has changed slightly in the last month or so, and I'll next time I update this webinar, I'll just put the new looking ads in for you. But the message is the same, the format is the same. They've just got a box around them now. But that's an example of how you can begin with basic pay-per-click marketing on Facebook. Now, for those of you who are willing to live a little, I'm kidding. For those of you willing to wade in just a little bit deeper into this whole Facebook lead generation world, let me share with you a slightly more complicated method that we're having great success with. Okay, this is in fact a two-step method. Now, you may hear the terminology page engagement kicking around when people start talking about Facebook. And page engagement is normally used to create a whole bunch of likes on somebody's business page. Maybe the new baker in town is opened, and he has a Facebook page, but one of his side businesses is he does wedding cakes, and he'd like to do a special page just for wedding cakes. So he has his regular Facebook page, and he has his wedding cake Facebook page. Well, he can run an ad that simply drives people to his wedding cake page. Okay, that's called page engagement, and I'm going to show you how we've been doing that at the Quantum Leap level, and give you a sense as to how you can do this in your business as well. So start with this. I want you to create a specific Facebook page for the market sector that you want to work in. So here's an example. Let's say that there is a bedroom community. We could use the example of Craig's Market. So let's say that in Craig's Market, most Facebook pages, or let's say if Craig was a real estate agent in Toronto, but he did a whole bunch of work in Newmarket, he could create a sub-page in his Facebook system just solely for the Newmarket market. The Newmarket market. That sounds kind of funny.
That's a mouthful, isn't it?
That's a mouthful. So Craig would create a less branded page solely for the new marketplace where he wants to get leads. Now, let me just show you how this is all done. It's all done from your normal Facebook page. You don't have to have anything special. Just go and build a page specific to your new demographic. Less branded. It's not about you. It's not about your company. It's not about your logo and the beautiful movie star picture that you have. As nice as it is, get rid of that. And we all know why. The less branded attack when it comes to lead generation always endears more people to us. We know that. We'll generate leads 3, 4, 5 to 1 if we can just stick with the less branded approach. So here's an example of a page that I work with. Now, on the east side of Calgary, there's a bedroom community with a big lake in the middle of it called Chestermere. And one of the agents who's been on my team for 12 years, she did so well that she ended up living on the lake in Chestermere. And so her name is Stacy, and she does all of our business on the east side of town, and she has for years. She was raised on a farm on the east side. She's done all the acreage business for me and all the farm business over the years. And she also does a boatload of business for us in the small town of Chestermere. And when Stacy wants to get busy, she'll send me an email and she'll say, I'd like to list some properties over the next little while, the next week in Chestermere. Can you turn on some lead generation for me? Now, you're probably wondering, well, Rick, why wouldn't you have it running all the time? And the reason is I support Stacy out there. She is a single mom, hardworking real estate agent. She has 3 little kids at home, and she can't work full-time as much as she would like to. So she'll send me a note. She'll have a week. She'll like to go out and list some properties. All she needs is leads, and she takes our tools, and she gets properties listed. So I created, for Chestermere, this less branded page. And nothing on there about me and Stacy, nothing on there. But the page is engaging. When people get there, they like the content that we have on there. Here's how I did it. From my page, I create right there, create page. Click on the link. It's a business or a place. I fill in the information, and the page is created. Once I've given it everything it wants, I've uploaded some pictures, I've answered all the questions, Facebook goes ahead and creates this business page for me. Now, before we go a whole lot further, I want to make sure we're clear. This is not about generating a whole bunch of likes and people. I'm not trying to create a herd on this page of people. I'm simply trying to get people to it because it's a segmented audience, and if I draw from that segmented audience, take them here and show them something compelling, I can easily get them to click on it and go to my landing page. So 2 steps, from the audience to the business page, from the business page to my less branded site. I know it sounds complicated, but it's not that bad. Now, on the page, I create a post, not an ad, a post, all right? This is what it looks like. So here's kind of a typical house out in Chestermere. And look at the caption that I've brought to work with this picture. So I've got a URL, www.chestermere2014homevalues.com. Find the true value of your home completely free, then go to chestermere2014homevalues.com. Now I have to tell you, we've worked with this caption format at length for the last 6 months, and this one right now is working the best. Okay, don't get fancy with your words. You don't need a whole paragraph of copy in here. You don't need to talk about the market and talk about fast sale. You don't need any of that. All we want the prospect to do is come, be impressed with the picture, like the fact they can go and find out what their similar style house is by simply clicking on the picture, which takes them to that specific page in my less branded site. Now, here's how we're going to build the ad for that. Coming back to where the funnel starts, instead of choosing the clicks to website like we did the first time, I want you to choose the 3rd box. It's called page post engagement, all right? That's where you do it. When this comes up, it now asks you, the little light blue box there, which page are we talking about? Because if you're like me, you're going to have a page for 4 or 5 sectors in your market. And so I have to choose which specific page I want. Below that in the drop-down box, it wants me to choose the post on that page that I want to highlight for people to go and look. All right, so I'll say that again. First you choose the page, then you choose the post that you think will be the most interesting on that page. So what you're looking at there is a drop-down. And you'll notice the one that I'm pointing at there with my yellow arrow is that ad that I just showed you. I think it's that ad I just showed you. That one works as well. Now I go down and I talk budget. Okay, we go through it. We go through the matrix of choosing all the scientific data, and we come down here to what is the budget. Now, in this case, we're going to do a slightly different type of marketing budget. Instead of this being optimized for clicks, I'm going to do what's called a lifetime budget. You see it there? Under budget, I have chosen lifetime budget. Now that's the lifetime of the ad, and that's how much I'm willing to spend over the lifetime of the ad, $150. And by the way, it's all in US dollars. It's all done in US. Now look at below that, schedule, come all the way across to other. When you click other, this box comes up and says, when does your ad start and when does your ad end? In this case, on the 16th of August, I ran it between 6 o'clock in the evening and 10 o'clock in the evening. 4 hours. And over that 4-hour period, that's the lifetime, I was willing to spend $150 with Facebook to get people to come over and click on my Facebook ad. All right, are you with me? So there it is. Saturday, August the 16th, 4 hours, cost me $150, and believe me, Facebook is going to spend that money. They want your dough. They're in the business of making money. So they're going to blast through that money, and they're going to flash my ad like crazy into that demographic that I've chosen so that everybody sees it. And the smaller the demographic, the more times they see it, the more times they go, the more activity I get on that post on my less branded Facebook page, the more chance I have of creating traffic to my landing lead generation page in my success site. Now, I know that sounds complicated, and Craig and I have had much discussion about this, because Craig's question is always the same. Well, Rick, why would you do 2 steps if 1 step works? Here's my answer, and I'm not trying to sound arrogant. They both work. For some reason, they both work. Now, this post-page engagement method has been really good for generating seller leads. Okay? So I can generate more seller leads in this 4-hour period than I seem to be able to do in a 3-day period using the basic pay-per-click method. And a good friend of ours down in Dallas, Texas, Aaron Kin and I have both experimented with this heavily, and we both concur that this is a really great way to generate seller leads. So don't poo-poo it until you try it. It works really, really well. And I want everybody to just embrace this. Get in there, set up your account, play around with this a little bit, send me emails, send your coach emails, and if you're having troubles making this work, don't give up. Create another ad. Adjust your budget. Look at the verbiage. Look at your copy. Look at your headline. Make sure you've got a stellar picture that you're driving prospects to in the post-page engagement method. A really good-looking, dramatic picture makes all the difference in the world. So look, here's a couple of examples of ads that I am working with on my Chestermere page. And as I mentioned, Chestermere is a lake community, so a couple of ads there feature houses on the lake. And like I said, we can generate seller leads from this absolutely no problem. So get on board with this, guys. This is a great way to generate leads forever. Now, for our American members on the call today, you're really fortunate. You can build a Facebook ad, and you can actually choose the zip code where your Facebook ad can be flashed. So, for example, I have a second home in Phoenix. I can create an ad that is only flashed to people in my zip code 85338 in Phoenix, and that is absolutely stellar. For our Canadian members on the call today, I'm sorry to disappoint you. We can't do it with postal code yet. I'm led to believe that it's coming. It's in the works, but we can't do it yet. So when you choose the audience that you're going to talk to with your ads in Canada, you have to do it by city, location, interest, age, all that scientific data, as opposed to simply using physical geolocation like our American friends can do with the zip code. But it's a great way to get seller leads, and I hope everybody is willing to give this a go. Any questions, Craig? Anything you want to add to our discussion thus far?
No, I'm thinking what a great job you're doing here. It's very thorough, and I'm sure our members will have some questions, but you're giving us some great details on this. And you know, this is the difference between somebody that actually does it successfully and somebody that, I don't know, read a book report on it, or somebody that heard how to do this through someone else. There's nothing like real-world experience, and we appreciate you getting right into the nitty-gritty, right into the details of how to do this.
Oh, I don't mind at all. This is great stuff. Look, our job as marketers in real estate is not first and foremost to sell real estate. And we got to get our heads around this. First and foremost in this business, what are we? We're lead generators. And if you really take to heart the Quantum Leap system, I don't mean just sort of look at it once a week or come on a webinar with us on Mondays and Thursdays. I mean let this really drive your business. First and foremost, your marketing is done to generate leads. That absolutely needs to be the foundation that your business sits on. You know, before I met you, Craig, I knew nothing about marketing. I thought I threw a house out there in the newspaper, listed the features, and hopefully it will sell. Well, I come to work with the Quantum Leap system, and it's scientific, man, but the leads pour in. And when your three components come together, I'm going to repeat this, when your three components come together, the message you choose, the market you choose to show your message to, and the medium you introduce your message with, the natural byproduct of that is a lead. It's not, do you think I can get one? Will one show up? The byproduct of that is leads. The entire world is very affected by marketing. And hopefully some of you are learning that now as we're working our way through the coaching program. And, you know, our top members, Craig, I think about guys like Joey Tremblay and Todd Walters, and I think about Bill Watson in Denver. Man, these guys have made more money than they could ever imagine simply because they learned how to market in their given location. Well, I've done the same thing. And my life was completely changed, Craig, because of what you taught me with respect to marketing. So as kind of a bonus here, Craig, I thought I would throw the Craigslist stuff in because one of the things we're hearing from many of our members now is the lament about how sad they are that the Craigslist is no longer a viable medium for lead generation. And we're hearing that. I mean, we hear it on the ad clinic on Fridays. In fact, I can't remember the last time anybody uploaded Craigslist ads for the Friday ad clinic because most of our members have decided to veer away from Craigslist because we can't insert a domain name anymore. Even if you put a domain name in a caption of your marketing on Craigslist, the Craigslist software seeks that out and pulls your ad. So most of our members, Craig, they've gone away from Craigslist. And don't get me wrong, guys. I don't want everyone to think that Rick and Craig are saying that Craigslist is the be-all, end-all of lead generation. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is this. Craigslist is a free online resource you can use to generate leads. James McDonald has taught all of us one of the best testing grounds for a direct response marketing campaign to see whether or not it has relevance is a free online classified site. And the most well-known site really is Craigslist. And Craigslist has come full circle. And let's be really honest here, Craig. We have exploited Craigslist for years. If my name was Craig and I owned Craigslist, I would have been mad years ago because all these real estate guys run ads and they take my readers away. Well, finally, Craigslist has smartened up. They don't want people leaving Craigslist. They want to keep their readers on the page. So they've removed all the ability we have of placing links in the ad to take people away. But that doesn't mean we can't use it. It doesn't mean it's not a viable alternative. Hey, there's way less ads on Craigslist now than there was a year ago. So I think we should be in there. So let's quickly review how to do a Craigslist ad so that it generates leads for you over and over and over again. And by the way, for those of you who are sitting back now thinking, oh, this will be boring, let me show you how to actually get somebody from Craigslist today onto a website landing page. I just saw a collective group of people, Craig, move back into the screen. It starts here. You create your ad in Craigslist right here under real estate for sale, and because we're brokers, it will have to be under broker offered properties for sale. Same thing on Kijiji, real estate and houses or condos for sale. Same thing on Backpage or eBay Classifieds. Oops, sorry. There's the categories: housing, homes for sale. For those of you that use eBay Classifieds in the U.S., there's where your ad should run. Same thing on Backpage, and Backpage is really popular in the eastern part of the continent. So there's where your ads need to be. Now let's talk about the ad. I've already mentioned this already, and Craig, you can chime in a little bit here too about this, but it's absolutely crucial that your ads start with a killer headline. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Now, in the Craigslist medium, the one on the left, here's why. When the prospect logs into Craigslist looking for something in the real estate for sale section, there's what he sees, a list of headlines. Now the typical headline is what? Square footage, maybe location, price, bedrooms, maybe bathrooms. That's the typical headline, and you can see it there. You can see it. Over on Kijiji, we're fortunate, and that's a Canadian site, by the way. Some of you in the U.S. may be wondering, what on earth is Kijiji? Has Brash been drinking? No, it's called Kijiji.ca, and that's actually the eBay classifieds equivalent on the north side of the border. So this is owned by eBay in Canada. But look, we get to use a thumbnail picture and also a compelling headline. And a lot of times if you can't get people onto your ad, it's because your headline isn't doing its job. We have to be clever at creating headlines. So here's just an example of what some lousy headlines can look like. And later on, when you download this, here's an example of what a compelling headline can look like. And I put this in so I can get your creative juices working. You've got to be able to create a headline for your ad beyond the basic stuff. And if you're having troubles creating a headline for an ad, then seek out your coach. That's his job. The reason Craig chose us to work with you is because we're pretty good at this stuff. Don't be afraid to send us an email and say, look, here's the ad I'm working on. My brain just won't come up with a real powerful headline. Send a note to your coach, and hopefully, your coach can help you come up with a headline that grabs the reader's attention and literally draws them in to the ad that you want them to read. Now, let's use a couple of examples. I'm going to drive this point home right now. Here's an ad that one of our members created earlier this year. And I want to just draw attention to the headline, which is right there. Attention renters, detached house, less than $1,600. Okay, now, at the outset, let me say this. Our member was on the right path. Okay, you can see that. He was on the right path. But I just think it needed to be just a little bit better. Now, look at the ad. Okay, the ad talks about a detached house, less than $1,600 a month. Why rent when you can own this home for less than $1,600? And there's all the info on the property. Excuse me. List price, detached bedrooms, 4 washrooms. This laundry list of features on this property. Now, there's another little interesting sentence at the bottom, which I like, by the way. This house and a list of 8 others. Oh, pardon me. This house and a list 8 others left on the list. So the language could be a bit better there. Simply copy and paste below link in your internet browser, and there's the URL that our member was using. So if you look now at the bottom of this picture on the right, you can see visits 53. Now this was in January of 2014. So this member sent me a note and said, Rick, I think I created a good ad, but there's not a lot of activity and the market's really busy. I think I should be getting more visits. So he sent me the ad and I said, well, let's make your ad better. It's real simple. Let's take the elements that we know. Let's take what Craig has taught us to become good marketers, and let's create an ad that has appeal at the very outset to the prospect. So I went to work and I recreated the ad. First thing is, let's look at the headline. I changed the headline to create some urgency. Help, huge discount, must be sold by January 31st, help. Now I'm pretty sure that if a prospect saw that, he would at least, or he or she would at least dip into the ad to see what it's all about. He gets into the ad, and notice I have another headline at the top of the caption. And by the way, in Kijiji, you get this little word processor that lets you create all these things, bold, color, bigger size. I just played around with that a little bit. Beautiful detached home, please bring offers ASAP. Quiet, no traffic location, gleaming hardwood floors, stainless appliances, romantic fireplace, safe fenced yard, a few steps from the park, easy community access, freshly painted, just ready for a new owner. Think about it. When you sit down with a buyer, a lot of times when you discuss search criteria, it's pretty emotional. So one of the things we want you to use in a lead generation ad are what we call emotional descriptors. So that's what I've put in there in my first line. I've drawn them in emotionally. I've let them know that everything they want emotionally is in this house, and they should get interested. Now look, it's number 4 of 7 on January's unclaimed quick sale list. All need offers, all available under $1,600 a month, cheaper than renting. Order your fully loaded full color feature sheet complete with pictures, addresses, and details for all 7 homes that must sell in January at, and then below that we had our members' domain name put in there. Now, if you look in the circle, we created 200 visits into that ad over the course of just under a day. So just under one of my working days, we created 200 visits. Our member had this up for a week, and he'd only created 53 visits. And it's not that I'm some kind of a hero here, but I think what we did was simply create urgency with the headline, and then we simply offered the prospect emotionally what it is they're looking for. And most importantly, we encourage them to order a list of those properties they really want to get their hands on. And so I ran this in my marketplace to test it before I sent it back to our member. So I sent him the ad. I also sent him a bunch of leads that came in as well. So here's what I want you to do. I don't want you to give up. If you get an ad that doesn't perform as well as you would like, now you know some of the fundamental things you need to keep working on with your ad. The headline, the caption, the call to action, the domain name needs to be really benefit rich. And on Kijiji, we still get to put a domain name in. And you have a choice. Do I pay to make it hot, or do I simply put in brackets underneath the domain name, copy and paste in your browser? Experiment with both. For $5 on Kijiji, your link can be hot. They click on it and boom, they go right into your less branded landing page. So as I mentioned, just a few things to think about when you create your ad in a free online classified site, okay? Let your ad really be about a property for sale. That's what I've always said. Let a Craigslist ad, a Kijiji ad, an eBay classified ad, whatever the ad is, an online classified site is there to simply introduce stuff to people logging in. Don't break that rule, but let your stuff appear to be a house for sale, a screaming deal, something really exciting, something really juicy that a prospect needs to go and look at to move forward. Let that permeate the first part of your ad. The second part of your ad is simply offer this property along with 7 others or 11 others on this week's list that match the property in question. Instead of them ordering a feature sheet for one hot foreclosure, give them a list of all 7 under $300,000, and you'll quickly find that people order your list. Now, here's another way that we want to drive traffic from an online classified site. Now, this is an ad that I got years ago from Lester Cox. And Lester's a real good friend of ours, good supporter of the system, stellar lead generator. I'll tell you what, one of the things we all learned from Lester was how to generate leads from classifieds. He taught me a lot. Here's an ad that he created years ago. We've changed it a little bit here and there, but this campaign, the Distressed Luxury Homes Hot List, is a great campaign. And I remember we've been asked many times, well, what makes this such a great campaign? And a lot of times Craig says, well, people with money know how to save money. They're looking for deals as well. Well, this is a great campaign that you can use in a market where your average price is a little higher than what we're used to. And I think about places like Vancouver and Toronto and San Diego and the Southern California. The Luxury Distressed campaign is a great campaign to generate leads. So here's a basic ad. Distressed luxury home hot list, many vacant or abandoned, all must be sold in May. Call now, free list with pictures, addresses and details of homes from $369,000 to $875,000. Now, let me introduce you to the call to action. And some of you have still not done this. Okay, in this case, if this is on Craigslist, I'm sending my prospect to my hotline. Yep, we're going to have them call from the computer to listen to a pre-recorded ordering message on how to get that list of properties. A lot of the smartphones, in fact, when they read a phone number on the page, they make the phone number a link. All you have to do is touch that number and boom, you're calling into your hotline. If you're not doing this, you can't advertise on Craigslist anymore. And for those of you who are lamenting that we've lost Craigslist, I'm giving it back to you right here. Just get your hotline turned on. There's two hotlines. There's an information line and a USP property tree. For less branded marketing like you see on the page right here, all you need is your information line. That's all you need. Okay.
You know, Rick, the good news about Craigslist is that you're right. Most real estate agents are going to assume that it can't be used profitably anymore, that you won't be able to use it. That's actually good news for our members.
Yeah.
Because that's what we want. We want all of your competitors to actually believe that Craigslist has been rendered useless and they're all going to leave. And if you remember when Craigslist first came out, our members did very, very well, Rick, because they were the only ones using it. Our members knew about it first. And then, of course, as it caught on, all of your competitors are using it. So it didn't work as well. Well, now, because our members know how to still make Craigslist work by driving prospects to a hotline, and your competitors who don't understand how to do this will falsely believe that Craigslist will not work, we're going to go back to that time, I believe, again, where our members are using it and everybody else goes away, which actually is a good thing. Now, I'm not suggesting that driving to the hotline will work as well as going to a landing page, but in some cases you could argue it'll work better, because here's why. On Craigslist with a live link, if a prospect clicks on your live link and they go to your landing page and they don't leave you their information, they're gone, you have no way of tracking them. However, when you're using an 800 number and a hotline on Craigslist, if the prospect calls your hotline number, even if they don't leave a message, you're going to capture their phone number 100% of the time. So we could argue that I guess maybe you might have less, you might have less people going to your hotline than prospects that would click your link. But at least this way, by driving traffic to the hotline, almost 100% of the time, you're going to capture their phone numbers.
Yeah, this is important. So, and by the way, guys, Craigslist is the only medium where you're only going to be able to use one. On practically every occasion, with practically every campaign we teach you, we recommend that you have two things in your ad, two calls to action, a URL or a domain name and your hotline. There's a couple of exceptions. The free online home evaluation doesn't need a hotline. It just needs your domain name. But on Craigslist, that's an example, Craig, where a medium is not going to allow us to use two. So for those of you coming back now to Craigslist, you might be disappointed, like Craig is saying, in that you don't get as many calls or as many leads or as much traffic as you used to. But my argument to that is you better look really closely at the traffic you're getting, because I'm one of those guys who believes that our best quality leads have always been attached to a hotline. So I think you owe yourself a big favor. If you haven't done so already, get your hotline turned on, take advantage of the pre-recorded script that Craig and his team have put in there for you, and get busy with ads just like this one. Here's another one, Craig. And the headline, designed to grab the reader's attention, says, seller says help sell quick. Well, that's code language in the mind's eye of the buyer. We need a deal. There's a hot deal to be had here. They click on that. They come into the ad. They read the headline again, beautiful rancher, blah, blah, blah. Number 3 of 14 on the Granada May pre-foreclosure list. Get your personal copy. Call here. There's the 1-800 number. Now, some of you are thinking, well, Rick, I've tried this. Craigslist wouldn't let me put in the numbers 800. You're right. I'm finding on some Craigslist pages Even the 1-800 number has some restrictions, but do this. Instead of putting 800, write the word 800 in there. 1-800-248-1124. Okay? You got to be experimental a little bit, and you'll find that you can easily generate leads. And this, Craig, this is a great call to action. There's nothing new here about recommending to our members that we use a hotline. I mean, I think you taught me to use a hotline back in 2000, and immediately, like right out of the gate on the Quantum Leap system, I began to generate leads with a hotline. So my admonition to everybody on the call today is do the same thing. Turn your hotline on and get it rolling. It's non-threatening.
You know, Rick, what are the most limiting things that real estate agents have are their convictions. You know, as I'm listening to you on the webinar here today, I'm thinking about what I've heard from so many real estate agents before. You know, some real estate agents have negative convictions about Facebook. They already know it's not going to work for them. Perhaps they've tried and they failed because they didn't do it properly. The opposite of that is we have many realtors that come to us who believe that print advertising could never work. That's their conviction. And they believe that the only kind of marketing they should ever do is online marketing. And, you know, you've made a pretty good point of saying there is no one medium that's going to do it for you. You should be experimenting with many different media and let the marketplace tell you what's going to work the best for you and just keep doing what works the best. And if we take a look at your business, you still run ads in print. You use Craigslist. You use Kijiji. You use Facebook. You use Google pay-per-click. But you also use signage. You also use direct mail. So you've got a healthy mix of online and offline marketing. The same goes for the hotlines as well. You know, you and I over the years have spoken to many realtors that have these convictions that, well, hotline technology is old technology. You know, nobody uses that anymore. That would never work for me. Or perhaps they've tried the hotlines before and it's failed. It hasn't. They don't know how to use the hotline. And maybe you can explain to everybody how important the scripting is. A hotline it's a commodity. You can get them anywhere. What makes ours work is what's recorded on that hotline. If you're going to replace you with a hotline, then you need to replace, you know, what you say. It needs to be the right language, just like the language on the landing page matters. You know, there's a big difference between websites out there today. Every real estate agent has a website. Unfortunately, most of their landing pages are ineffective. So maybe you can speak about these convictions and how having convictions can really limit your income.
Well, there's an old saying that you are what you think you are. And I remember in the beginning when I started this program, I had certain levels of confusion. I'll admit it. I had never heard this before. I'd never seen it. And I'd never been, most importantly, I'd never been taught this before. So all of us like to get into a comfort zone and stay there if we can because it's, as they say, it's comfortable. But here was the problem with my comfort zone. I wasn't making any money. I was doing a deal here and a deal there. I wasn't making any consistent commission checks. And Craig came along and said, well, Rick, it's all about what you believe. You're doing what everybody else is doing and just trying to look better at it. And you said, Rick, the typical agent is failing inside of, at that time, it was 3 years. You said to me, Craig, you've got to change what you're doing or we're going to wave as you drive down the road. So you said, try this, try that, make sure you do it like this, follow these guidelines, here's the format for this, and then you showed me, Craig, how you've succeeded doing all these things. So I got out of the box, I turned on my hotline, I turned on my basic website, and believe me, way back then they were different than they are today, and I ran the marketing. And in every piece of marketing I ran, I introduced right there that 1-800 number. I immediately started to run marketing everywhere. And back in those days, Craig, 2000, 2001, you know, we were doing way more print media than we're doing today. And I had calls coming into that hotline left, right, and center in no time at all. And it didn't take long for me to understand that just because I had not done something before or just because I hadn't been introduced to something before, that didn't mean it was wrong. And that was a conviction I had. If it's not being done here in my market, if nobody else is really doing it like this, I probably shouldn't do it. That was me. I was quick to say no when, in fact, I needed to be quick to try something. And that's the advice I always try and give our coaching members. Just because you're not comfortable with something, or just because it's not really clear how it all comes together, doesn't mean it's bad for you.
You know, I think it is important for everyone to hear that you and I have convictions. We all have convictions, and like nobody likes to live in a box. I don't like to live in a box, but at least I know I'm living in one. I'm always trying to challenge the convictions that I have about things. So, good advice here today, Rick. You know, you got to keep open-minded. Always let the marketplace dictate what you're going to continue doing. That's the great thing about our program is every ad we recommend that you run. Every place we recommend you run these ads, you're going to be able to easily and quickly determine the effectiveness of all of this.
Yep.
So we would never say continue to do something that doesn't work, but to not try something because you've already decided that that type of ad or that type of medium is not going to work for you. Or you try it once and perhaps you've made mistakes, so you give up on it. We're just here to let you know that a lot of people do that, and it costs them a lot of money. So,
it's true.
So don't. You know, just know that that's a mistake. And Rick and I, we all have our convictions. We've all made these mistakes before, and that's what we're here for, to shine a light on the mistakes that we've made and others have made before you.
I love to share this story, Craig, about Facebook because, you know, don't get mad at me for this, but you had a conviction too a year ago that Facebook was just for high school kids and you know, announcing parties. And you went out to the West Coast and did a couple of half days or a full day event. And we decided that we would help fill your events by running Facebook ads for realtors. I think it was in either Vancouver or Seattle, I can't remember. But when we looked at the matrix for all the leads and traffic we generated into your page for that full day event, lo and behold, we had generated a lot of filled seats because of Facebook. And you and I have laughed about that a few times. And I remember prior to that, you and I argued a little bit about it too. But that's a conviction. And if we can just leap in and try it and really get our feet wet with what we're trying to learn and be willing to learn it, I think we can change the direction of your life, the direction of your career. It's really important that we're willing to learn and change. So,
okay, now Rick, we've got a number of questions here typed into the chat, and I you know, it's kind of like the more you get into this, the more questions there are. So probably the best way to handle these questions is we're going to have our members send you an email. So what would be the best way for them to reach you?
Well, my email is rick@craigproctor.com. And don't forget to email your coach as well with questions. We're all here to help.
Yeah, I mean, the coach is who you should be talking to directly.
But my pleasure to help, for sure.
Yeah, but Rick is here. We're here for you as well. I'll give everyone our office number again. It's toll-free, 1-800-538-1034. But let us know how you're doing with this. Remember, you can submit your Facebook ads every Friday on the Ad Clinic. We would love to see your ads. Rick does that from time to time, but we'd like to see from all of you what's working, what's not working. You know, we're here to help you maximize your response. And it's not just your Facebook ads, it's your Craigslist ads, your Kijiji ads. Send us all your advertising. We want to know where you ran it, how much it cost, and what kind of response you got.
Yep.
We're running out of time here, Rick. What do you want to do here to finish it off?
Well, I'm just going through a couple of slides here, Craig, which show a really well-proven format for online classifieds. And this is one I continue to have great success with. And I like the headline. This might make you chuckle, but here in Canada we have a television network called HGTV. And I've noticed that every second show on that network is about finding them, fixing them, and flipping them. So I created this ad. There's my headline, HGTV type fixer-uppers, handyman special. Now, the fixer-upper campaign is something that everybody should be running. Okay, it's a great way to generate leads. And here's my Craigslist version of the fixer-upper campaign. Diamond in the rough, does need paint, flooring, doors, landscaping, mostly elbow grease and TLC. Great opportunity. There's some pricing information. And then look, I let the prospect know that it's not just a house, it's a list of properties for sale, and I simply tell them to call the recorded message on the hotline to order up their list. Now, let me just end with this. For those of you thinking that we can never drive traffic to a hotline again, when you set your hotline up with the folks at AMS, there's a small feature that maybe you don't know about. Here's what a lead looks like when you get it from your hotline. This is what we all get right there. It comes to you as an email. But look, this is what the prospect gets after they've called your hotline from their smartphone. Okay? They get a text back to their phone, and look, in the text message they get, there is a live link. Now, if this caller had been on my Craigslist ad, and I had decided to load up this message with a specific landing page that works with my Craigslist ad the way it used to, I've now got a second chance with this prospect. If he didn't leave a message when he called my hotline, he can click on this number, or pardon me, on this link, and be taken to my landing page. And this is what my landing page looks like on his smartphone. So for those of you who think the days of Craigslist and our less branded landing pages, if you think those days are gone, driving traffic between the two, I'm here to tell you they're not. You've just got to learn how to use this technology correctly, and you're back in business again. So that's just what I wanted to sort of end with, Craig, to show our members that it's not as bad as they think. We don't have to cry and lament and worry, because we can get those prospects back to a landing page if we're diligent in setting up our technology correctly, and we have people to help us do that, both at Success Website and at Automated Marketing Solutions, two of our top vendors.
All right, good stuff. Well, look, we're out of time here for today. Rick, I want to thank you very much for doing an excellent job, very detailed, great information here. Again, if you have any questions, talk to your coach, or you can email Rick. Make sure you continue to upload your ads. I would do it on Thursday for the following day's ad clinic, and we will pick some of the best ads to look at. Even if your ads are working, maybe we can help you make them work even better. So I want to thank you again, Rick, for doing this. Great job.
My pleasure, Craig.
And anything you want to say just before we wrap it up?
No, I think it's not really, other than it's really great to work with our members. I thoroughly enjoy it. So if you have any questions, don't be afraid to reach out. We're all here to help. We want to see you succeed. We want to give you the toolbox that Craig gave to us. So just send me a note if I can help in any way.
Great. Okay, well, thanks, everybody, for tuning in today, and thanks again, Rick, for doing a great job. And that concludes today's webinar. Take care.